So now let's move to the next theory, neutralization theory. And again, on this video, I'm going to cover the next few slides that pertain to neutralization theory. So what does it mean when you neutralize something? Well, when you neutralize something, it means that it has no effect. So here we're talking about how the law no longer has an effect on a person. And again, we're talking about younger people. So this is the view that law violators, people that violate the law, learn to neutralize conventional values and attitudes. So you learn not to be affected by the rule of law. You learn not to be affected by law-abiding behavior or expectations, allowing them, the person, to drift back and forth between criminal and conventional law-abiding behavior. So the person, there are times when the person will become indifferent to the law when it's convenient for them, but then they can easily go back into obeying the law when it's necessary. So many delinquents do not become adult criminals. There are people, and I've met those people. Hey, I've had people like that in my family who, when they were young, they were like a tyrant. They were off the chain. They were doing all kinds of bad things. They were, being truant in school, committing petty crimes as kids and things of that nature. And then they grow up and they're completely different. And their parents are saying, I just knew one day I'd have to visit you in jail. I just knew one day that we were going to have to bury you because we knew one day you were going to get either killed by the police or get shot in a robbery or something like that because you were so out of control. And then the person says, yeah, that's how I was. I was young. I was dumb. But I grew up and I got more mature. So people age out of crime. There are some people that age out of crime. Now, of course, there are people who don't. But there are people who will engage in criminal behavior when they're young because they know how to be indifferent to the law because they're hanging out with friends who are also engaged in being indifferent to the rule of law. But then somewhere along the line, they decided it's time to act right. It's time to graduate from high school, go to college, and become successful. But they will tell you, when I was a kid, I did all kinds of bad things. And as I'm discussing this, I think about Ben Carson. Dr. Ben Carson, who is now the Secretary of HUD under Donald Trump's administration. If you know anything about the background of Ben Carson, he was a really what they call a bad kid. He used to run around with the wrong crowd. He actually pulled a knife on a kid in school and tried to stab him and went to juvie hall for that. He went to a juvenile detention center for that. But his mother had a long talk with him and expressed to him that, she wanted him to do better in his life and she wanted him to be a better kid. And she started taking him to the library. He was reading books and she would have him, do book reports and stuff like that and read them to her. What he didn't know about his mother at the time is that his mother struggled with reading. She was practically illiterate. She was functionally illiterate. But she made it seem like she was actually reading those reports, putting pressure on him to go to school and do better. And we know that Ben Carson became one of the most brilliant neurosurgeons in this country and in the world. So he's a great example of someone that drifted back and forth between criminal and conventional behavior and aged out of deviant behavior as he became older. So the act of drifting is key to explaining how juveniles go back and forth between convention and crime. So let's look at some techniques for neutralization. So these are some statements or attitudes that explain how people become indifferent to the law. The denial of responsibility is the first. Acts are due to forces beyond their control, or accidents. Hey, I couldn't help myself, or, they put me in a situation where, it just went down. I had to act. I had no choice. My back was against the wall. So they're denying any personal responsibility for their behavior. And then there's denial of injury, not believing that anybody was really hurt by their actions. Denial of the victim, blaming the victim, arguing that they deserve what they got or they deserve the crime. So, if you come out of a bank and you're counting your money, what do you expect? Of course, there are people that will rob you. You shouldn't have been in that neighborhood with a pocket full of money in the first place. Condemnation of the condemners. So when people condemn you, you look at them and you say, well, what about you? You've done your dirt. So you see others as equally criminal or corrupt. They got a lot of nerves. They do the same thing I do. Appeal to higher loyalties, being loyal to your peer group rather than obeying the rules of society. So what's most important to you is that your gang member friends, so to speak, or your deviant friends respect you and admire you. Their loyalty means more to you than anybody else. So again, I've included a visual for you to get an idea of some of the behaviors that fit neutralization techniques. So let's look at the denying the victim. Here's some statements. He had it coming. She talked back. He has a bad attitude, so they had it coming. Let's look at denying responsibility. They made me do it. I don't have a choice. It's either me or him. Here's the techniques of denying injury. They have insurance. So if you robbed somebody's house or you broke into a store and you stole something, oh, they got insurance. They'll replace that stuff. They have too much money. They got too much money to begin with. They won't miss a little bit if I take some. What's one CD to a big store? So if I stole a couple of CDs, who's going to miss it? Let's look here. Condemning the condemners. Everybody steals. Why pick on me? If I didn't do it to him, he'd do it to me. So again, you're blaming the people. You're condemning the people that are judging your negative behavior. And then appeal to higher loyalties. He was a stranger. Why should I care about him? My friends matter to me more than the victim did. Only cowards run away. I'm going to help my friend fight if I need to. I have to protect my buddies. So these are some of the statements that fit these neutralization techniques. So it's really good to know what those are, because on the exam, I'm going to present some of these statements and you'll have to identify which of these techniques of neutralization they fall under.